Oh, the memories from childhood of watching the TV when there's nothing going on except some static and those colors. That's very familiar from Finnish TV, that image that we just had there.
Yeah, and we made it, right? We are
Yeah.
here. We are live. Welcome to all those that are joining us today. Drop a hello in the comments. Let us know your name, where you're from. We're here to serve, and so we're really excited to be here today. I'm Stacey Gonzalez, and this is my amazing co-host Nikki Vinograda. So welcome.
Every time that your pronunciation of the last name gets better.
Because I just get more confident and more comfortable.
Good. So shall we get started?
Let's go.
With the topic. So we are kind of in this journey of energized mindfulness. We will be going through 9 steps, but actually we'll do it in, I think, in 18, 20 sessions, who knows. And what have we covered so far is vision in relation to energy. And then we talk about plan, specifically in relation to confidence and clarity. And those 2 topics might not always sound like the sexiest and the most interesting topics, but actually, without those 2 things, nothing is in context. No decisions, which is kind of today's topic, as we are going deeper into planning. How can we make decisions if we don't know actually where we are going? So what we today want to be sharing with you, if I would kind of put out 3 points, is that this decision-making aspect of planning. And because after all, we are making decisions all the time. Right now, as you're listening to me, well, first of all, you actually chose to come here. And even every word that you are hearing, you are making some level of decision. Is it interesting, relevant? Like there's all the time decisions being made. I'm choosing what I'm saying. So that's the one thing. Like so it seems like a pretty important topic since you're all the time making decisions. And then one thing that I think we really would want to be deliver is that decision making and planning, they are not some events or moments. It's actually mindset. It's the way we are looking at things. It's a perspective. It's a skill. And having said that, would wish that at the end of this, you know how to make really great decisions, maybe even recognize exactly how to make them, and then also how to avoid those decisions where the next day we are like, was that a really good one? And I'm a bit doubtful, and now I'm not really taking the action. Like I wonder if that was the right decision, or the other way around, where we are really postponing the decision. So by the end of this session, hopefully you'll be even better decision maker than you are now. So that probably will kick us off.
I am so excited about today. So I'm going to start by saying you're going to hear noises. And that's okay because I am at a hotel and I'm going to share a little bit about a plan that I had around a vision that didn't go exactly as I had imagined. Yet here I am coming to you this morning from Louisville, Kentucky, which is not where I was supposed to be this morning. And so, Nikki, you know this because I've shared this. Met with you this week. We were my family and I are on vacation in the Smoky Mountains, which is in Tennessee, a little bit on the southern east coast. And my husband and 2 kids and my daughter's boyfriend and I, we all decided we were going to go on this, little vacation getaway. And yesterday morning, we got up to get ready and go on a hike, and our phones went off with this emergency warning. But we looked at the space that there were fires in the mountain, so we looked at the space where we were at, and we're like, oh, it's kind of far away. Welcome, Sharon. Glad you're here this morning. It's kind of far away, so we will just, we're going to leave. We'll go on the hike, and then we'll come back. Well, when we got down and out into the main town, there were lots of police presence. There was traffic backed up. We left all our stuff in the house, and so we went and did our hike. And the way we were at, we're like, okay, the fires are that way. You could see the smoke, but it was pretty far away. Well, when we tried to get back into our place, they said the roads are closed and you can't get back there. And so you can imagine, and Nikki, we talk about this, and we talked about like the anxiety piece and like when things don't go as planned and you have a plan. Like we had a really good plan. We can't control for a natural disaster. And so we were able to go through some side streets and get back to the house and get our stuff. And the kids, I was getting this sense from the kids and my husband and just some of the comments they were making were like, no, we're okay. We can stay, we'll be fine through the night. And I just could not shake the feeling of, no, we won't. It's not smart. The safety of our family is not worth it. Let's figure something else out. And so we had to make a different decision. And so this morning, so we drove, we found a hotel outside of the space. And what's really cool is this morning, as I was sitting getting ready for our meeting, there was a group of people standing in the lobby. I was up real early, and I heard them laughing, and I heard just this spirit of joy and laughter really early. And so I knew inside, like, Stace, go say hello to those people. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Just walk up and be like, hey, what you guys talking about and laughing about over here, right? That's awkward. 6:30 in the morning. But the more I struggled with not doing it, the more I was like, Stacy, this is the most ridiculous thing. Go say hello to people you see in the lobby. You can talk to people. And so I went up and I said, I just got to let you guys know, I hear you. I'm sitting over there. The laughter, the joy, whatever's happening here is amazing. And like, keep it up. That was it. Right. And they looked at me and they're like, I just got the one woman, there was probably 8 people. The one woman said, I just got such a good feeling. That brought such joy to me. Can I give you a hug? I was like, yes, please. And then, there were probably all of them. The man walks over. He's like, we're a team. We work together. Are you looking for a job? You can work with us. It's like, I am looking for a job, not in pharmacy or like in pharmaceutical something. But all that to say, I wouldn't have had that moment, that ability. We had a plan. My day, nothing went according to plan, but then I had these amazing, rich experiences as a result of this vision I have of who I want to be in moments, not following a perfect plan.
And listening to you, it's such a good example of how to make conscious decisions, because you said as you were realized that you actually cannot get back, or the rest of your family was like, hey, it's not a problem. You said the safety of my family is not worth it. So that's a base for the decision. And because you also had a vision and not just a plan, you were meaning that those who haven't been in the first session, the vision cannot be really disrupted actually, because the vision is about who we are, what values we are living from, while plan can be disrupted actually. And that what you could have done is, damn it, why is it like this, and all kinds of things. But actually you heard those people laughing, having fun, and you decided to go talk to them. And because like you mentioned the word joy, which is important to you. So that's a really good example of how we make decisions and how they affect, because you could, who knows what would have happened to your family if you would have stayed there, and you really could have just be really unhappy about that you had to make that decision. You could have decided to not go to talk to those people. So that's such a good example of how, and maybe I'll like use that as a bridge to go into how we make decisions, in the sense that the reason why we don't necessarily make decisions that give us a lot of energy and so on is when the decisions are based on, because on default level we make decisions based on comfort and discomfort. And now I'm already like disconnecting from your story, so I'm not like, this is not in context of that. But when we don't have this vision and plan, when we don't know what is important to us, which is essentially values, like you mentioned, joy and so on, and I know connection is very important to you, so you want to talk to those people. If we don't have those clearly, if we never ask that, what is the basis of my decision, then even in the best case, all our decisions are very short term, based on what's going to be the most pleasurable and comfortable right now, and versus what's going to be unpleasant. And an example comes to my mind yesterday with a session with a client, and he's a really amazing guy. He's working on many areas, but one of the things is that he wants to be in better physical shape. So we were yesterday, for example, talking about how he eats and exercise and how he eats sugar. And he said that he has this difficulty, this will come to the decision making of not eating sugar after he had lunch and dinner. Because, and his decision is basically what he's making a decision is there's no context for it. There's no good motivation to stop the sugar because he hadn't looked yet deep enough to that. So he always chose the sugar because it's comfortable, nice feeling for a moment. So we explored a bit more into that. We asked questions like, so imagine you continue with these health habits, what will happen? And we explored, and actually, I'm not going to go through the whole process, but actually we found out that when he makes the right decisions with even eating sugar, it's not a decision about sugar. It's about being a healthy grandfather to his grandchildren who haven't been even born, that he cannot be the grandfather if he continues this way. And that's like for him, that was so easy to drop the sugar because it's no longer a question about shall I eat the sugar or not. It's a question about do I want to meet my grandchildren in the future or not. So that's how we can really power our decisions by putting them in the proper context.
Well, you bring up a beautiful point, which is the real motivation is not eating sugar. The real motivation is who he wants to be and who he
Mm,
sees himself as being, right? He sees himself as a loving, healthy, vivacious grandfather.
mm,
And because he sees himself, that's where the vision comes in. Because he sees himself in that new way, or he imagines himself in that way, he's now able to say, and what plan will help me, what part of my plan, like the no eating sugar or eating whatever that plan he made,
that's
is
not the
probably just
decision.
one part, just one little part of his plan. He's probably got
Mm,
other things like, maybe taking the kids on Tuesdays to the
mm,
movies, or who
mm,
knows what those parts are. I wanted to ask you this, because throughout that ordeal that we had, that
mm,
situation yesterday, I thought I handled it well. There's some things that I didn't like in the way in which I handled it.
mm,
And that was, I had a level of anxiety that
mm,
manifested in a way of, we had all this food in the fridge, and there
mm,
was there was just so many competing things, like,
mm,
because I didn't have a plan for this. This was not in my plan.
mm,
And so while I know my anxiety and the way it came out, I was kind of just curt, yelling, a little bit of yelling at the kids, like, get your stuff. You're not packed yet. Go take a shower. Like, we're out of here.
mm,
Can somebody help me clean the kitchen, please? Like,
mm,
that would be nice. If, right. And Tim,
mm,
are you just walking around looking, or are you going to like do something? Like,
mm.
I was edgy to the point where, like, he threw a blanket at me, and we don't really like, and so, it is what it is. That's how it happened. But I would like to think next time I can be more calm. I know we've talked about this, how we can be more calm in the midst of anxiety and in
Mm.
making decisions. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts are around that.
What for that is the important question. I'm not questioning it. I'm asking it to like to share probably the right things. Uh,
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
would the
no,
right answer? What would, let's say that? What would? How would you know that my answer was useful to you?
mm, I think it'd be useful in the sense of the next time I'm
Mm,
encountering a really unexpected situation, which, let's face it, probably happens
mm,
more than not.
mm,
Um, I'm more able to navigate that with
mm.
other people when it's like significant and there's other people involved.
Well, I will on. This is not advice. This is how I would look at it. How I would handle it. Well, first of all, I wouldn't try to dampen down the anxiety in the sense because then that becomes like a little bit entanglement. I would because why not be edgy in that situation? Why not have a little bit of sharpness? I wouldn't try to get rid of the sharpness. I would probably do my best to add some humor to it. I would probably say, okay, my role to be the annoying guy who takes the responsibility for this, so I'm going to be whatever, yelling at you or something. Not yelling, but I'm going to be bossing you around for a while, so we get out of here. So I would probably like put humor, because well, humor always, that's already alleviates the anxiety. And like we talked, I wouldn't try to get rid of the anxiety, because then it will work itself out. Because all those, now I'm talking in general on something we talked with, you had a really great conversation with you about, and I would say one of my biggest insights from living in the meditation center and working with clients is that every single emotion, I can 100% stand behind this, every single emotion is trying to serve a purpose. It's only when we try to get rid of them that very thing of trying to, okay, I shouldn't feel this way, or this is not the right way to feel in this situation, that's the only time when things get difficult. Because in the end, the anxiety is kind of like, hey, Stacy, like there's these things that need to be handled, and they actually need to be handled, so let's get them done. And it's so amazing that when we allow the emotion to have our attention, and then kind of like, okay, what's important, what is this emotion trying to tell me, then the unpleasant feeling of the emotion really dissolves. So
Yeah.
that's
No, that is so good, because it reminds me of the one session in Energized Mindfulness course where we talk about transforming emotions. And so I can see how taking that and being humorous, making jokes or whatever, could have lightened that. But the anxiety in itself was serving a purpose at that time. Like, we need to get out of here. This is not good. Like, it was legit anxiety versus like, I'm safe in my office.
right. Yeah, that's a really good differentiation. Legit, because it's happening there. It's not something, what if this happens?
Yes.
Maybe if this might happen 8 months from now.
Yeah, no, this is like, we could die today.
That's a really good
Yeah.
way to put it, like legit anxiety. Because sometimes people then have this idea that about calmness, that it should be
all the
in
time
this, like
zen, and you're in any
like
situation you could
the
just
trees are burning, half of the cottage is burning, and you are outside, you are just meditating outside. Yeah.
Well, guess what? You know what time it is, right? You know what time it is. It's time to
bring
bring
my
in.
show in.
It's time to bring in our guy right here.
Yeah.
Boom!
Oh,
Look at that, like
hello,
magic.
everyone.
Mhm.
Great
What's been
conversation.
happening back there, Maestro?
Just listening to the great conversation and taking a few notes on you all. You both made some good points, Stacy and Nikki. I definitely will say that. So, yes, that's what's been happening.
So what did you pick up? What should we elaborate a bit more on? Is there any questions coming from the audience?
I've been looking at the audience. I haven't seen any particular questions so far, but I would think, based on some of the points you had made, that someone has a good question out there. I know for one, Stacey, you touched on, and that was a really good story that you had told, because that really like brought down the whole, I would say just was boom going to dynamite, as you had said before, the planning out the vision, and you brought it all together, by telling the story, and then you brought it back home with the whole, it was your vision that had you make a better decision. And then Nikki, you really gave a good highlight on the aspect of the safety was, a part of the reason for this adjustment, for this audible, we'll say in sports terms, you're willing to call that audible. So I thought that was a great point. I'm curious though, on top of our topic, as far as when it comes to planning, what kind of plan and how does a plan, like what kind of plan does persevere? Because I know we were talking about consistency, in the aspect of things. So like, if a person wanted a practical understanding or tips, like what would you say would be helpful in the kind of plan, and how does a plan persevere through all moments, since every moment can be different, similar to Stacy, your story, and Nikki, your story?
That's a really great stage. Do you want to go first, or me? Or okay, so I think the starting point for a plan that really keeps us engaged, involved, and committed and consistent is to ask, what is the plan serving? Why does this plan even exist? So that we always remember that the vision that the plan is always serving the vision. And I could go into many directions we could go with this. I'll go to the direction of, in context with persistence, is that one of the most important aspects of making a plan is that eventually ask ourselves that what are some challenges, what are the moments where I will very likely give up, what will be things that would make me give up, what are some very possible things that could really throw me off the track, and how do I want to prepare for it. And because there's so much great information about planning, I think me and Stacey, we use sometimes this term ungoogleable. Like you cannot actually Google this kind of stuff.
Make sure you get that pronunciation, ungoogleable.
Like German Finnish pronunciation or something like that. And the aspect of planning that is very often overlooked is that who's actually executing the plan. Like what does that person, which is we are executing our own plan, what mindset, what beliefs, what qualities, what values, what strategies does that person need to have and must have for this plan to actually happen? Because it doesn't matter how clear the plan is if we are not a kind of person yet who can actually go through it or be consistent with it. So those are really important questions about plan. And then a super brief overview is that when the big mistake people make with planning is that they plan it from their strength, which might sound like what's wrong with that? But our strength is also often limited perspective. So we can look at plan. Some people are really excited, enthusiastic, excited when they look at their plan. And some people are like, oh, this will not work. What if this happens? And some people will be looking at statistics. Some people go with gut feeling. Some people are very creative. But all of those alone are limited when it comes to planning. So now I'm a little bit maybe forgot the point because I'm going in so many directions. But so that's right, the strengths to really. I sometimes use this idea that when I have created my plan, I always make it visual so I can actually see the timeline, and I draw there kind of like a sky and the tree level on the ground, because so that I can visually see that this part of the plan is big picture, this is a detail. And then I ask myself, if I was very critical and yet my best friend, what would my best friend who's very critical advise me when he would look at this plan? Like what would he criticize? Because that allows us to move us into perspective that is, how would I say, it's not it doesn't take away our inspiration, and yet it kind of makes us look at our own plan with critical eye. So those are a lot of things that I threw out there, and Stacey, maybe you can take it from there.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really good point. So, and I see to you as the question, what's the difference between a vision and a plan? And so I can frame it in a couple of ways. One, the vision is who you are. The plan is what you do, right? So the vision is really around who you are and who you want to be and the essence of your being, the person you are. The plan is, how do I take the steps to become more of that person that I see, that I know inside is like this great awesomeness piece of me? Because whoever is listening, right? You all are unique, special, no one more special than the other, right? So there's that. There's also an ability for people to balance both what I think the plan is like, kind of the more concrete, the details, the grounding, the more focused approach with some structure. The vision is in your imagination, and it's abstract, and it kind of lives up here, and it's not as clear, right? And so by combining those two in a way, it allows you to have more of a balanced approach as you are kind of creating the life that you see for yourself, without having to give up, living all ethereal or living in the day-to-day nuance of every single detail.
Yes. Yeah, that the balance balance there, and you explain it so well. I'll continue. I'll add to it few things. Is that it's really useful to understand ourselves as a totality. And I shared this already earlier. It's very useful to understand that there is a thing that is called identity structure, and we have an internal hierarchy, meaning that the vision, what Stacy mentioned, who are we deep down, that belief or that clarity around that is the real source of motivation and energy. Because why people get stuck with plan often is that they don't have vision, and they confuse these two things. And Stacey said it so well that if we have one or the another, if we only have plan and no vision, we'll get stuck with it. If we only have vision, we'll become frustrated because we have a lot of energy but no expression for it. And what I wanted to say about the plan in this context, I'm having fever, so if I'm losing the track, that's why. That second, I will find the context for this. What was I saying about the plan?
That's okay. That's okay. You're allowed to not have it all perfectly right mapped out.
Yeah, no, I want, there was something important I wanted to say. Right. So right now I remember. So when we are working on the plan, if we get stuck with it, it has to do with this internal hierarchy, because I earlier used the example of public speaking. That's a really good example. That's easy to understand that if a person has a plan, I want to become a public speaker, and they work on the skills, they work on knowledge, how to do it, and still they kind of can't like move forward with it. And they wonder why that is the case. And that case is that, for example, with one client, I remember her saying eventually, well, who would want me to be talking about something? And that's a perfect clue, an example that on the identity level, she's thinking, who would want me to be talking about something? So imagine that even if you have the skills, but you believe that nobody wants to listen to you, then you are not going to do it. So that's to finalize the thing about why we need both vision for energy and plan for clarity to move forward.
That's a good point. And if I can take that and compile it on top of Stacy, what you had said earlier about like the the meditating through everything, through the fire, I think that it's, and you had mentioned anxiety too, and I'm just curious on clarifying. Does anxiety play a positive role in planning or in decision making, to be more specific, excuse me, when it comes to whatever decision you're going to make, and bringing that to the balance? Because I think a lot of people have this Gandhi moment, like we see a kind of a Gandhi, that whole like, through everything you're going through, you got to feel woosah, but in reality, we're humans, and that's where I think most people have a negative connotation of anxiety. But it sounded like you were saying anxiety can be used as a way to make a better decision, if I'm not mistaken. So how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as someone who has in the past seen how anxiety has crippled me in a way and held me back, or I've projected it in unhealthy ways to others, and then been able to ebb and flow into like, well, here's what it's like to be more calm. Here's what it's like to have space in your mind to make better decisions that aren't all like in this heightened state. I think what Nikki said earlier really illuminated for me the difference that I hadn't thought about in this particular situation. In this particular situation yesterday for me, it legit was a life or, right, that was life or death. But many times, most of the time, anxiety is not life or death. It is some other sort, whether it's public speaking, whether it's a task we don't know how to accomplish, and we don't have the clarity to accomplish it. So I think it's more about figuring out, for me, how to, Nikki talks a ton about this, like transform that, because it's energy, right? Anxiety is just a different form of energy. So how do I then just transform that energy into a into a way that serves not only me, but serves those around me. Because my greatest desire is not just to serve. It's not about serving me. It's about serving others.
Right.
And so that kind of, I don't know, does that illuminate or make sense?
Yeah. I can expand from that. I really like this, that we are kind of like playing ping pong, where we can expand on what we are each of us are saying. And here's few examples that I think is actually quite easy for everyone to grasp, or not even to understand, but grasp. And only if you look at what I will now share, you will notice that it actually makes sense. So why I talk so much about, and like Stacy was saying also, about not getting rid of any emotions, is because all the emotions evolve into better, let's say, emotions and qualities. And for example, what is sadness telling us? If we fight sadness, well, we'll be just fighting it, that's all. But sadness, actually, when it evolves, when we allow it to happen, it grows and evolves into gratitude. Because what are we sad about? We lost something precious. And if we fight against that feeling, well, it's just really, we are just preventing us from experiencing gratitude. If we are guilt, if we fight or get like start loathing ourselves, we will not notice that guilt is trying to point out that, hey, look what is actually important. Shame, what is shame trying to tell us? Look who you actually could be. It's like gives clarity around identity. And then like this consuming little bit, I don't know if gluttony is probably not the right word, but when we are consuming and distracting ourselves, even that is information that, hey, there would be a better way to relax. You could actually relax yourself in a refreshing way. And anger, another good example. If we try to get rid of anger, or if we try to put the anger on other people, we will not notice that what the anger is pointing out is, hey, look, something needs to be fixed or protected. So every emotion really can evolve into, we could even say, wisdom. So if we put that quickly into the context of decision making, it's pretty, well, this is a bit clumsy way to say it, but it's pretty wise to do our best to decide that, okay, maybe I'm going to start experiencing and trying to understand my emotions rather than getting rid of them, because getting rid of them is literally impossible. All of us can look into our life and in the past and, okay, how many times did you get rid of an emotion by fighting it? How many times did it work? Well, it didn't work many times.
Yeah, resisting it does the opposite effect. It actually increases, it brings you, so when I'm resisting and pushing away anxiety, I'm actually increasing my anxiety. Livia is asking about our internal resources with our detailed plan. And then she goes on to say, that she, as the plan maker, realizes that I'm not yet consistent enough, patient enough, and sounds like maybe wants those aspects first. And I would say this morning, I had extra time, so I was reading through old journal entries I had written from July of last year. And it was so, I hadn't picked them up since July of last year. And I was blown away by my insights that I had in July, because I remembered who I was when I was writing that. I remembered that. But when I read it now, I was like, holy shit, Stacy, you had it then. You just didn't see it the way you see it now. And it's way more evident now. So I guess I would say I use that, Liv, to say to you, you have it already. You just don't see it in its entirety. And I don't know if we ever see it in our entirety until like we cross over, until the end of our lives, whatever that looks like for you. That's how I kind of feel about it. Like, but it's there already. It's all inside of you. It's all there. I don't know. Maestro, what do you think?
You said it perfectly. I completely. It's all in. It's there already. I completely agree with that.
Maybe I'll again, this, I don't know if this useful example, what we could think about, that vision is the aspect of us that ensures that if we are hammering something, then that we actually are excited to hammer. So vision is that part. Then our strategies is how I'm going to use the hammer, and our skills are the hammer, and the action is like actually hitting the nail. So that's the internal aspect, like how good am I? No, not how good am I. How inspired, how committed, how consistent, how do I have the inner qualities to be swinging this hammer so I can build this house? I don't know if that's very, very how do I say, elegant
Yeah, and
example,
your
but
and
it's
your
pretty.
your swing improves over time.
Mm.
Like you just keep picking up the hammer. We keep showing up here every Thursday, and we get a little less clunky, a little more clear. We start to we start to flow, and you allow yourself to be with that, and just and allow that to be what it is.
How would you, and this is a question for either of you, how would you say people should reward themselves when they make good decisions, and how
Super
often should
good
you reward
question.
yourself?
Hmm.
That is actually
Can you define? Can you define? How are you thinking about reward? Tell me a little more about reward when you say reward in that context. Like, how do you imagine that?
Well, I didn't want to give any. I didn't want to influence. I wanted you to just give.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna give this. I'm gonna give.
Okay.
This is the real. So, like, as I feel myself going next level, whatever that means in its entirety. We were at this house that I said we were staying at. And it took me forever to make the decision on the place that we booked. And like the mattresses, I don't think they'd ever been changed. I ended up when I got there, the sheets smelled. I ended up washing the comforter. Like I like things a certain. I don't need a lot, but like it just smelled like they hadn't been washed from the people who had slept in them before. And to me, that was gross. Okay.
Right.
And so when it came to getting a hotel, typically my way has been, what's the cheapest one? Can we all fit in a room together? And I was like, forget that. I'm going to a nice hotel with clean towels and comfortable bed and clean sheets. And like, I'm doing it. Like we just went through a really hard situation. And so I don't know if I even thought of it as like my reward, but I was like, I'm done trying to skimp around and get a deal. And no, I'm finding a nice hotel. And I didn't sleep long, but I slept 4 hours and I had dreams and it was amazing. And look at like I feel energized today, right? And so like living from a mindset of abundance and not scarcity really takes finding the way in which you unfold that for your life.
And the abundance, the sense of abundance gives a lot of security, which allows us to literally be in a mind state or brain state that allows us to see opportunities, to be more confident. And why it's a so important question about reward is that you can see it so often that when people go after something, it will eventually start involving habits. And the typical and not effective way at all to deal with habit is, okay, from this moment on, like I will not even go 100-meter close to a chocolate bar. Like I'll never even use the word hamburger. Like we'll go into extremes. And why that is not wise at all is that first of all, it doesn't motivate us at all. We are just using willpower to trying to not do something. Second, if we don't reward ourselves during the journey, we will be suppressing one part of us. And what will happen eventually is that, let's say if it's whatever is, so some reason I'm now using food as an example. If for 3 months we managed, wow, I ate like a yogi in a monastery, like I ate half a gram of rice every day, then 2 months later we are like shoving ourselves with food, because that part needs to be all we do actually, even I would even say consciously need to reward ourselves. And the really amazing thing happen on the level of brain is that, let's say whatever it is part of our plan, I need to get in shape, so I will start running. Eventually, if we can somehow consistently run, the brain will eventually connect running with a really good feeling afterwards. So in that sense, the reward starts becoming internal and natural. But it is really useful to even a little bit trick ourselves. So long time ago, like 13, 14 years ago, when I would have to go to work around 6 or 7 in the morning, and I still want to meditate, so I would wake up at 4 to meditate. And my trick was that my alarm clock was in a kitchen. I was living alone back then. My alarm clock was in the kitchen, and there was a piece of chocolate right next to the alarm clock. So every morning I was like, oh, that piece of chocolate. But by the way I got there, I was already up. So it is useful to reward ourselves. I guess as long as the reward doesn't become something we later need to pay a price for, then it's good to reward ourselves.
Well, that was a perfect segue as we go into our live guided meditation. So, if you're ready for that, we'll kick Maestro out and move to the meditation. But Maestro, we love having you. So I'm so glad that you are.
So glad to be here. Thank you.
You
So
just bring, you bring the flavor, you bring the spirit, you bring that little extra, panache, oomph, whatever you want to call it. So panache. I don't know. We love having you. We love having you. So, all right, we'll see you
next
soon.
time.
See you next time also.
All right.
All right.
Today's meditation.
So the previous two meditations have been quite complex, and today let's still do a bit of a complex, and next week we'll go more into something simple and powerful, which is we learn how to direct our attention rather than getting lost in the thoughts. Today I do want to keep us in the theme of a decision making. So we are going to do a visualization that involves that you can already practice. You can actually make a decision today. And for that, I would invite you to just kind of start already relaxing into yourself. We are kind of now already starting the meditation. If you can allow yourself to start to relax into yourself and to feel, sense, think, what is a decision that in the past days, past weeks, past months has been kind of lingering in your mind, that you feel like, hey, could be a good time to maybe make a decision around that. What seems to be coming to your mind? What's the decision you would want to make? It can be something very small, can be simply what's the first thing, what's the task, what's the one thing you want to accomplish during the next 24 hours, can be something really big, what's the next career move. So choose, allow it to come, and use this as a practice and training to make the decision. It is also, now I'm a little bit adding to this still, this is very useful to know that we can also kind of make the decision in a playful way without yet fully committing to it, because it allows us to go through the process of thinking. So okay, so if you can now, before we go fully into the meditation, into the visualization, what seems to be the decision you want to be making? What's an important decision to make, and you can kind of label it or give it a name. What's been something that's in your mind? And if you feel like you can't find one, just put something there. And now you can become aware the weight of your body and how it's kind of gently pulled by the gravity. The gravity is kind of inviting it to relax. The space below you is inviting the energy, the bodily and the mental awareness to kind of descend, to flow down, to spread into the body also. You can feel the aliveness, the tingliness of your toes, tip of your toes, soles of your feet. Feel the warmth of your feet. Become aware of your ankles, your knees, your thighs. we are doing this focus to the space below so that the mind can kind of settle and relax into the body, and that the body can relax also. Becoming aware of your relaxed hips, your stomach, lower back, your heart, your lungs, your shoulders drop. Your hands can be relaxed on your lap or wherever they find their natural place. Your throat, your neck, allow them to simply be. If they feel tense, that's fine. You can even allow your chin, your lips, your tongue, the back of your throat, everything can relax. Your cheeks, your eyes, your eyelashes, your eyebrows, even your hair can relax. Feeling your whole body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, feeling your whole skeletal structure, the aliveness moving inside your body, the firmness and the relaxed sense of your body. And now, in your mind's eye, you can kind of place this decision that you might be making. You can place it into this space in front of you. And you notice that surroundings have kind of disappeared, they've dissolved, they become light. There's simply this decision of yours on the ground in front of you, and your body becomes very light and it starts floating way above, deep in the space, endlessly far away from you. There's this power, there's this sense of even something mysterious, something inviting, something safe, something familiar, way above you, that is kind of inviting you and pulling you upwards. And you slowly start to float, being aware of this force, this awareness, this presence way above you, and yet being at the same time lightly aware of this decision of yours that you've left there below you. And if your mind is right now thinking that am I doing this right? Am I doing this the wrong way? Simply allow that part of your mind to make the comments and enjoy the experience and do your best. You can have thoughts, you can get distracted, you can simply then come back. Meditation is not about not having thoughts, it's about learning to be present, about learning to be aware and learning to direct our attention. It's not about getting rid of things. We are moving upwards. It's almost like a tube. It's almost like a spiral upward that is moving us up. We are ascending further away from the decision. It's now maybe they're 100 feet, 10 meters below you as you're moving up. And in your own mind's eye, just simply see and feel yourself moving upwards towards this presence, towards this even mysterious awareness above you, while the decision below you is further and further away from you. maybe 500 feet, 200 meters, moving up. And you keep moving up, you're floating, you're maybe now even on the level of the sky. You are way above. And from here, from this distance, now you can stop. The decision is there, way below you, almost as you're above the clouds, and yet you can see the decision way below you more clearly. From here, as you look at your decision, what seems to be like, why is this decision important to you? You can sense it through your whole body, through your hips, through your stomach, through your solar plexus, your heart, your throat, remembering to keep your shoulders relaxed, through your whole brain, through your eyes. You're sensing these decisions. What's the essence of it? Why is it important? And from here, from this wide perspective, you notice that this decision in front of it, kind of a timeline opens up. You can see your future, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 30 years, realizing that this decision is one day it will be 20 years behind you. Looking at it in that context of your future, what is important? How can this decision, how can the right decision with this thing serve you? Looking at it from here. And really be aware of where is your attention, where is your mind going when it's looking for the answer. This is important part of the decision making in general. If the mind goes only into the head when you're making decisions, it means that you are making decisions based on past, because you will looking into memories and old experiences, old knowledge. So it's a bit limiting. Yet it is aspect of the decision making. If when you're making a decision, when you're watching a decision, like right now, if your whole being, your whole presence, if you can almost feel it with your whole body, then all aspects of you will be involved in the decision. And to recognize a good decision, you will notice that your whole body is quite relaxed about it, because you are doing it from your values, and values are connected with calm and peace. And now the decision way below there is becoming a bit brighter, a bit more vibrant, a bit more alive, and you start moving downwards. Start moving downwards, even quite a fast pace, and you are okay with it. You can feel yourself moving downwards, being pulled by this decision, yet you are in charge. You actually want to move towards the decision. It's your decision. It's important to you. It's you who are making the decision. The decision does not own you. You own the decision. You're moving closer and closer, maybe 500 feet, 200 meters. Moving downwards, you can sense, you can feel the decision even more. 100 meters, 300 feet. 50 meters, 150 feet, moving closer and closer, and you can, in your own mind's eye, you can allow yourself to simply ground yourself, to touch the ground, and who knows where you are. Maybe it's a beach, maybe it's a mountain, maybe it's a forest, but you can allow some surroundings that feel safe and maybe inspiring, whatever is important to you, appear around you as you are going to look more in this decision. Now this decision is in front of you. It can appear to you as a form of text, as a form of symbol, as a form of image of an event that is happening, just simply abstract sensation of what's the decision. Just allow it to appear as it appears naturally to you, just that you know kind of what the decision is about. And now sensing, especially through your solar plexus, a little bit from your heart, not so precise, don't worry at all about doing this perfectly right, simply being aware of this decision. And you're kind of being filled with this yellow light, this kind of sensation of yellow, looking and sensing, feeling the decision in front of you, making this decision. What is something really, if you're looking at this decision and whatever might entail from it, what's something really positive? Let's say you want to say yes to it, or if you can form it in that way, that you are now saying yes to this. What's something absolutely like overly positive? If you just look at it purely from positive perspective, why is it like such an amazing decision to make? You look at it in a naive way, on purpose, like completely full of enthusiasm, no ideas what could go wrong, simply looking at it purely from positive perspective. What's great, what's positive about this decision? And now, again, sensing through your body, there's this decision in front of you, sensing through your forehead, your throat, maybe even your heart. And there's this sensation of maybe blue light, deep blue light. What's actually maybe not so wise about this decision? What's negative? What's critical? What really is actually not a really good thing about this decision you might be making? Look at it on purpose in an overly critical way. Just go even overboard with criticism. And why it is really important to look at decisions in this way, to go overboard with criticism, because actually it can relax the reptile brain. Because when we are making decisions, and if there are doubts, if there's anxiety about it, often again they're simply trying to point out that, hey, have you taken this into account? The doubts are trying to inform us, they're trying to make us look at something, and maybe we'll notice that there's nothing actually to be worried about. So now you have looked at it from positive, from negative perspective, purely from reasonable, purely rational perspective. Why to make this decision? Why to say yes or no to it? So if you look at almost only numbers, what will be the concrete reasons to say yes or no to it? If people are looking at a job, if they would completely throw out, doesn't matter the culture, what matters is money, then this is the perspective. It's one perspective, it's analytical perspective. And then now moving into a bit more fun part of it, looking at this decision in front of you, maybe your body starts feeling with this tingliness, this playfulness, this creativity. what images, what songs, what colors come to your mind when you think of making this decision? Purely from a creative perspective, if you would say yes, if you would make this decision, what are some impressions? What are the songs that come to your mind? Tunes, colors, images, symbols, sayings, and whatever weird things come to your mind when it comes to this decision. And then now, like fully relaxing, just fully relaxing into yourself, especially your stomach area. You can even take few deep inhalations into your stomach, like hold it in your stomach and relax into your stomach. Allow yourself to feel the power of your gut. So this vibrant, very alive color of red shines from your stomach. The decision is in front of you. Fully relaxing, even allowing the heart and the lungs to kind of move the attention towards the stomach. Now looking at this decision, whether saying yes or no to it, purely if your deep instincts could make this decision, what would they say? No filter. If they would even yell it out, even if they could scream it out, what would come deep within you? What's the decision? What's the feeling about this decision? And now everything around kind of fades, dissolves in the dark space. And in front of you appears a door, however the door appears to you. And behind the door, there's the deepest presence that you've ever felt. Who knows what it is for you? It's future self, universe, God, fully lit up brain, soul, whatever it is to you. The deepest awareness, deepest presence that you ever experienced right behind that door. And now the door opens and you enter. And now in front of this deep presence, what is the decision you would make? You would now have to make the decision. What would that decision be? What's going to serve you and your future and others even the most? And now something happens. Year passes, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years pass. The decision has been now made 4 years ago. You have made that decision 4 years ago. 5 years, 6 years, 7 years pass. 9 years, 10 years. Now the decision had been made 10 years ago. It's way behind you. There, 10 years behind you. If this decision that you just made, you can now turn back towards it. You can turn your chest, the front part of your body, your face, towards the past, there, far away. 10 years ago, you made that decision. How do you feel about that decision now? Why was this decision important to make? Ten years ago, you made the decision. It's been already made. What is the message that you want to send to the you who's there in this day? The part of you that already a long time ago made this decision. What's the message that you would receive from that part of you? What is the message? And what is the next small step forward with this decision? And now, final thing, what is something that during this meditation or even the session, something that you realized, something that you really want to keep close to your heart, something that really will serve you? What's that one thing you want to keep? And you can take a final deep inhalation. Not the final of your life, not the last one of your life, but of this meditation as we can come. Not that we come back to something, simply we continue from this very same clarity of mind that we connected with during this meditation. All right.
Oh man, that was amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that. It was fun because I'm here in the hotel and it is pristinely quiet now. But while I was in the meditation, I don't know what was happening because I had my eyes closed and I was in my meditation state, but there were people with carts and noise, and now it's like nobody's here. It's a lovely thing. So
Yeah, nice one.
interesting. So thank
Well,
you for this. We always appreciate you guiding us through and bringing that.
yeah, it's a pleasure. I really enjoy. I really have this sense of the people being involved. Have this sense of us if we are actually all doing it together. So it's really, I enjoy it a lot.
It really is.
So thank
right.
you, Stacy. Thank you, Maestro, if you're still there, and thank you everybody who joined. Next Thursday, we'll start going even deeper. We'll go into like, well, what is this attention that we are actually having? What can we do with it? How does it work? If you want to join me and Stacy on Monday, we do a meditation every Monday. And I think Stacy might be putting link into the comments.
I'm gonna put the link in right now so that people can certainly join us for that. So I'll drop that in.
And feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn if you have anything you want to talk to, ask about. We are here.
Thank you.
All right.